In this video, I want to talk about seam rippers. And the first thing I want to say is there is no shame in needing a seam ripper. Because honestly, if you're not using your seam ripper, you're really not sewing that much. None of us are perfect. So if you're new and you get upset like, why do I have to use a seam ripper? I'm no good. Seam ripper equals I am inadequate. You are incorrect. The most experienced people who sew and quilt always have seam rippers on hand, and they usually have their favorites. So I want to show you a few different kinds. This is just a basic, pretty inexpensive seam ripper, has a nice case so that you're not going to poke yourself. You'll notice it is a little bit bigger than this one or this one, but they're all going to do their job. Right in here, there is a blade, and that is what is going to help cut through the threads that you need to remove to fix whatever went amiss. There is a red ball on all seam rippers, kind of like on the end of a pen. When you first get a pen, sometimes they'll have that and you take it off to use it. You do not take these off of your seam rippers. They are there for a purpose. Although some seam rippers, you can use them both ways, and people have some serious opinions about which direction that ball is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be in the fabric and this is going on top, or does it go this way? And I'm going to say it depends on the seam ripper, and it depends on which you prefer. This is a more this is a 4-in-1 tool. So it has a seam ripper. You can put the lid on it. You can use this as a turning tool. You can use this to like finger press to rub against fabric if you're pressing. You know, you just need to get it pressed, but you're not wanting to iron it. And then if you take that off, it has a really sharp pointed stiletto, which is great for holding fabric down, seams, things like that when you're sewing, so that you do not sew on your fingers. So this is a 4-in-1 tool. And then this is Cindy's seam ripper. It was designed by Cindy, the owner of Riley Blake Designs. I love how small it is, and I love how it sits on my finger. So I'm not like holding and manipulating it while still working with the seam. I find this a lot easier. Now, because of the way this was designed, where it has this little indentation for your thumb, this one is designed for the red ball to be on top when you're using the seam ripper. These we can use either way. So you can have it where the red ball is in the fabric and it's cutting, and this part is on top. So let's give that a try. We can go like this, put the red ball in there, and we can just push and cut those threads instead of going through and going from this side and taking the point and like individually picking out stitches. You only want to do that if you really only need a few stitches picked out. Otherwise, that can be very tedious. You saw how quickly I was able to get all of those stitches out. Another seam. So with this one, again, you're just going to take out a few of those stitches, and then you're going to hold this like this. And it's almost like working a zipper. You're just going to push. Now, the other thing that is really important to know that a lot of people do not realize if they haven't been sewing for long is that after a while, this blade, just like a knife in your kitchen, will get dull. So if you have a seam ripper, you know, that was your grandmother's, you might want to keep it for sentimental reasons, but you might want to replace it for use. And you're going to find that you're going to have much better and easier results if your seam ripper is nice and sharp. They all have the little red ball. You can put it on top or the bottom. There's pluses and minuses to each, depending on how the seam ripper was designed. And there is no shame in using a seam ripper.